A combined race for the Radical Challenge Championship and the Radical SR1 Cup. Round 9 for the Radical Challenge Championship, but joining them on the grid for this joint race around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, which of course held the British Grand Prix just a few weeks ago, will be the Radical SR1 Cup, and it will be round 7 of their championship. The cars had a qualifying session this morning. The conditions for qualifying were slightly damp, to be honest. Whilst the track got a little bit wet, it did then dry out again. Such was the warm ambient conditions that we've got, but it still looks slightly ominous out there. Fine spray of rain is what we've been experiencing here at Silverstone over the course of this morning, so it'll be really intriguing to see how that affects the cars as they will very shortly be heading out onto the grid. And of course, looking at the weather at the moment, the Hankook slick tyre that all of the cars run would be the way to go in the Radical in the Radical Challenge Championship. The SR1s do run on a treaded tyre though, so for them, even if weather conditions close in a bit, it would still be the same tyre that they would run on. But certainly for the Radical Challenge Championship cars, there's decisions to be made, and that can only be the slick tyre. But if the weather closes in, it could make it a really, really intriguing race. In terms of the championship, well, in the Radical Challenge Championship, Matt Bell has been the man to beat so far, but he was beaten to pole position by his main rival in the championship, Jerome de Sadlier. Matt Bell so far this season, he starts this race from the outside of the front row of the grid, and we'll give you that in a while, has had 6 wins so far this season. He's only once failed to finish off the podium, and that was when he was in 4th place at Brands Hatch for round 6 of the championship. So he's on 456 points coming into this weekend. Second in the championship on 350 is Jerome de Sadlier, who's had a bit of bad luck along the way. He's had 2 non-finishes already this season, but he's claimed 2 wins along the way and something like 4 second places. So those are the 2 drivers fighting for the championship overall, and they both line up on the front row of the grid. Jerome de Sadlier's car is the white car with the red nose strip. Matt Bell's car is the all-black car, but with the yellow headlamps to it. In the Radical SR1 Cup, as they have their 7th round of the championship here, Will Hunt has been absolutely the man to beat. He won both of the races at Snetterton. He backed that up with another 2 race victories at Brands Hatch on the 8th of May. And last time out, when they returned to Snetterton in early July, he was on the runners-up spot of the podium on both races there. So he's only finished 1st or 2nd so far in every single race so far this year. So he's on 235 points coming into this championship. James Lay lies 2nd in the championship. James has had 2 wins. He won both of the races at Snetterton. He's had, 3 thirds and a 4th place as well, so good consistency from him. And lying 3rd in the championship standings is the track-focused driver, which is Dean Warrener. Now, Dean is in this race, but Dean is not competing in the SR1 Cup. He has moved over this weekend into the Radical Challenge Championship. So he is at the wheel of that grey car with the lighter green to it, just going through our shot now. So he will not be scoring points in the Radical SR1 Cup. We will give you the grid very shortly. The cars have been released out onto their formation lap, and as they make their way around the circuit, then let's just have a quick look at the cars that are going to be lining up on the grid very, very shortly. As I say, front row of the grid is the number 5 car of Jerome de Sadlier. Sitting alongside is number 44, Matt Bell. Row 2 of the grid will be number 52, which is Mark Richards, and number 11, which is Chris Short. The 3rd row of the grid is number 9, Chris Preen, alongside long-time Radical racer number 14, John McLeod. And row 4 of the grid is number 54, which is James Sweetenham, alongside 23, Jason Rishover. A little bit off the pace in qualifying is Jason, but he is certainly going to be a driver that is going to be pushing his way through the field at the wheel of the number 23 car. 5th row of the grid is the grey and Dayglow car, which you can't really miss, such as the coloration of it. That is ex-SR1 Cup racer, moving up to the Radical Challenge Championship. Number 80, Peter Tyler. Alongside him is Dean Warrener, the number 19 car. Row 6 is 28, Elliot Goodman, and number 91, Mike Chen. Nice to see Mike on the grid. He was a champion in the 750 Motor Club Road Sports Series, Bike Sports Series last year. Moving over to the Radical Challenge Championship, and is a busy man with his commentary schedule for Red Bull TV. So we'll see how he gets on. After Mike Chen on row number 6, row 7 is 31, Rod Goodman, and 88, which is Jakub Zilonska. Row 8 is 24, Peter Brooks, and 58, Anthony Ayres. Row 9 is former GT Cup racer, number 60, Andrew Gord, alongside 6, Stephen Lake, with row 10 being number 20, Wesley Fongini, back in the championship. Good to see Wesley back in the championship, and number 74, which is Guillaume Goucher. At the 11th row of the grid, that's the last of the Radical Challenge Championship cars, is number 12, which is Andrew Greenland. Then there'll be a bit of a gap between the Radical Challenge Championship and the cars that will start for the Radical SR1 Cup element of the race. And pole position for that in reality is number 27 Mackenzie Walker alongside 4 Ben Stone. Row 2 for the SR1 Cup is 39 James Lay alongside 21 Will Hunt. Will, the championship leader and a former champion as well. The third row is number 16, Sven Thompson, returning to the series. Good to see Sven back out there, the man who's usually busy running his own Radical Racing team, Nielsen Racing, alongside number 26, ex-Ginetta Racer, Nick Sapolsky. Row 4 for the SR1 Cup is 7, Fraser McFadden, and the Scotsman, the man from Dalkeith, number 18, Mark Williams. Then it is youngster, number 2, Darren De Leon, who is joining the championship for this weekend, the teenager at the wheel of number 2 alongside 93, which is Alex Spooner. The final few rows for the Radical SR1 Cup are number 40 James Headley, 22 Andy Lowe, 3 Paul Atherton, 15 which is Drew Stern, and the number 36 car of Simon Parker will sit at the back. So the BMW safety car guiding the field round. It's a long old lap here on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. We are not using the Grand Prix starts. That is where they are just going past now, past the Silverstone wing to driver's right onto the Hamilton straight. We are using the full 3.6604 mile circuit, and off on the formation lap with a bit too much weaving it into the wall has gone Chris Preen, I'm afraid to say. So that's so unfortunate for Chris Preen, recently appointed as the Radical Sports Car UK sales partner, and whilst his car is going to continue under its own steam, you can see damage to the front of Chris Preen's car, damage to the rear of Chris Preen's car, and without question that car will be destined for the pit lane. Now, is it? Yeah, it is. Front and rear body damage. It doesn't look as though it's done damage to the suspension, but there's no way Chris Preen can start the race, I'm afraid to say, with the damage that he's inflicted on his Radical. So he will be destined for the pit lane. The team may well have seen that. Well, off goes the bonnet, so that's a bit less bodywork on it, but that has surely damaged things like brake ducts and other things. So Chris Preen, I think, will be surely a retirement before the race has even got underway. That was a real unfortunate mistake for Chris Preen there, and as I mentioned in the build-up to this one, just going to show how tricky it was. Very similar conditions we have now to the were at qualifying. There's just this light mist of rain in the air, which means that it's not enough to wet the circuit. You still need the slick tyres, but it does mean that it's greasy out there. And the one thing that drivers don't like, racing drivers, is when it's mixed conditions. You either want it wet or you want it dry. You don't want it in between the two conditions, and unfortunately that's what we've got at the moment, and that is what has caught out Chris Preen, who isn't exactly inexperienced. So for an experienced driver to get caught out just goes to show how tricky it is out there for the Radical Challenge Championship competitors on their slick Hankook tyres, whereas the Radical SR1 Cup, remember, do run a Hankook tyre. They are the world tyre partner for Radical, but it is a treaded tyre. So we're about to get this race underway. A rolling start it will be. Jerome de Sadlier, remember, the white car with the red nose on pole position. Matt Bell lines up alongside, and we're about to get this 20-minute race for round 9 of the Challenge Championship and round 7 of the SR1s underway. They charge their way over the start-finish line and up towards Copse Corner, which is turn number 1. Jerome de Sadlier will have the inside line for that corner. Into the pit lane does indeed come Chris Preen as they turn their way through Copse for the first time. There's the SR1 pack, and there's a spin in the middle of the SR1 pack, I'm afraid to say, and that was Sven Thompson, who's gone round through 360 degrees at the wheel of the number 16 car, but we're side by side for the lead of the race, and Matt Bell takes up the lead of the race from Jerome de Sadlier. So the Swiss driver down into second position. Matt Bell picking up the lead of the race. It looks like it's Chris Short that's settled into third position in the early stages of this one, and we'll pick up on who is leading the Radical SR1 Cup element of the race very, very shortly. But down the hanger straight goes our race leader. Matt Bell, the championship leader, leads his main championship rival, Jerome de Sadlier, as they turn their way through Stowe Corner for the first time. As we say, already a couple of drivers getting caught out in what are very, very tricky conditions here at Silverstone. Out of Stowe, down the dip and into the Vale. Very easy to outbrake yourself as you flick the car in towards the left-hander at the Vale. Dean Warrener dives up the inside to take a place away there. So position gain for Dean Warrener. Warrener now needs to make sure that he cements that position that he's just gained over Mike Chen as they carve their way past the wing. And you can see the damp parts of the circuit there for the cars that are having to be dealt with. Now, I'm guessing they've all gone out on the slick time. The way that some of them were diving to the damp patches makes me wonder if maybe some of them have gone out on the Hankook treaded tyre. And problems in the SR1 Cup, I'm afraid to say, and that's Will Hunt, who lies second. Is the championship leader that's got tangled up. Mark Williams has also got tangled up, and there was a third car there as well that was just trying to point its way in the right direction. I'm not sure whether that might possibly have been Andy Lowe. Difficult to tell from that angle. Could well have been Andy Lowe. We'll have to wait and see who doesn't come through at the end of the first lap. So we've already had plenty of action in this 20-minute race for the Radical Challenge Championship, with our race leader Matt Bell looking to try and make good his escape over Jerome de Sadlier. Chris Short having settled into what is third position. There goes Gary Warrener. Now, Gary Warrener qualified 10th on the grid, but I think has probably picked up a couple of places here. Now, you can see them. Yeah, Gary Warrener's up into 6th position, so he has gained a couple of places as over the start-finish line now go. So Bell from Sadler from Short. Fourth at the moment is James Sweetnam. He's moved up from, 7th position on the grid to 4th. Jason Rishover is up from 8th to 5th. Peter Tyler completes the top 6 at the moment as they work their way through what is Beckett's, and you need to get a clean exit coming out of Beckett's onto the Chapel Straight, because you get a good exit coming off Chapel and onto the Hanger Straight, you carry that momentum all of the way up towards Stowe Corner. Now, Chris Short under pressure here, and I think he's going to lose out here. Let's have a quick look. Is he going to be able to hang on to the place? No, just does. So Chris Short, for the moment, hangs on to it. But James Sweetnam absolutely with him, the number 54 car, looking to try and move himself into the podium places. He's going to lose out again as they head down in towards the Vale. Can't really get it done there. Now, James Sweetnam, we haven't seen a great deal of in the championship this year. He didn't compete at Snetterton. We saw him out at Brands Hatch for the first time. His best result has been a 6th position, but he's now through and up into the podium spots in these tricky conditions. And I do think some of the cars, without question, the way they're diving for the wet parts of the circuit, they've come out on the wet Hankook tyres. I think those that are taking the normal racing line and aren't looking for the dry parts of the circuit, I think, are the ones on slicks. So it's going to be a really, really intriguing race, and I think that's why some drivers have made really good progress in the early stages. They rolled the dice on the tyre choice, and while some of them have got it right, others, I'm afraid to say, have got it wrong and are going backwards. Close there as almost Elliot Goodman had diving up the inside John McLeod. Both of these long-time Radical racers, but it's still the black and the gold and the red car of Elliot Goodman. His father's in this race as well, Rod Goodman, but further down through the order. And Elliot is looking to try and overtake here and work his way past Guillaume Bruchet, who I think has had a few problems and has already dropped off the lead lap by the look of things. We'll pick up on what's happening in the SR1 Cup as well very shortly and see as to who is leading that. I think it was Ben Stone that had picked up the early lead in the Radical SR1 Cup, so we'll have to have a look for him. Further down through the SR1 Cup, good battle going on. James Hadley going wheel to wheel with the number 93 car, which is Alex Spooner. The two of them absolutely together, but it's just going to be James Hadley that comes out on top as they flick their way over the start-finish line now with 15 minutes of this race to go. Now, Matt Bell leading by 1.4 seconds. There goes through shot there John McLeod, still looking to try and push on and make a little bit of progress. But all of the time, the battle's absolutely raging out on circuit. And certainly in the Radical SR1 Challenge, Radical Challenge Championship, it has for a very, very good number of years provided some superb racing. Now, this at the moment is Nick Zapolsky in the SR1 Cup. Behind him, but doing all of the defences work, is the pole sitter for the SR1 Cup, which was Mackenzie Walker. He's under pressure and loses out there to Ben Stone. So I think it must be then, is it Nick Zapolsky that's picked up the lead of the SR1 Cup? I think it is, possibly. So I'll have to pick up on that next time through as to who is the leader in the SR1 Cup. I think it is possibly Nick Zapolsky now. We'll have to see if we can get a wider shot at some point and see exactly who will be leading the SR1 Cup. Battles all the way down through the order. Andrew Gord still under pressure. John McLeod going wheel to wheel round the outside at Club Corner to try and pick up the place, and I think he's managed to do it. Yeah, so the number 14 car of John McLeod gaining a position and then nipping up the inside of Andrew Gord as well as they turn their way up towards Abbey. So a couple of places gained there. So good work being done there by John McLeod, who I think is still trying to thread his way up through the order. I think he's one of a couple of cars that have potentially probably struggled in the conditions early on and is now starting to make his way back up through the order as conditions continually change out there. There goes Andrew Greenland at the wheel of the iconically liveried Radical Martini livery, synonymous really with the support of the Lancia World Rally team and, of course, Group C racing. Now, Mackenzie Walker there slowing down as he came in towards Brooklands. Not quite sure what the problem was there, but the number 27 car, Mackenzie Walker, appeared to be travelling a little bit slower as he came in towards Brooklands. Yeah, there he goes there, and all does not look well with the number 27 car of Mackenzie Walker. Qualified on pole in the Radical SR1 Cup, but it certainly looks as though young Mackenzie is indeed destined for the pit lane. So that's an enormous shame for Mackenzie Walker, who has been one of the drivers that's been in this championship for a good number of years now. Hasn't had the look at all this year. He's had 4 non-finishes already. Has only had 1 podium spot. So 12 3/4 minutes of the race still to go. The Radical SR3s now getting amongst the Radical SR1 Cup competitors. So back marker lappery going on, whilst the SR1 Cups, of course, are having their own race. They won't want to yield too much. They want to make sure that they are still busy squabbling away with each other, but equally as much they've got to make room for the quicker cars as they are trying to put a lap on them. Down in towards the Vale. This is Peter Tyler, the Dayglow car, coming under attack from Jack Zalonka. Jack Zalonka equally as much now coming under pressure and about to lose out to Anthony Ayres, who's going to sneak up the inside as they turn their way around through Club Corner. Anthony Ayres in the red car, right the way alongside the car of Zalonka, and both of them I think are going to get picked off as well, are they? Yes, they do. They both get picked off by the charging car that comes past both of them on the run in towards Abbey. So fantastic stuff, and that is Mark Richards that's managed to sneak his way through there. So past Anthony Ayres, past Peter Tyler, who can resume their battle. Right behind them is Elliot Goodman at the wheel of the number 28 car. He dives up the inside of Peter Tyler again as they head round through what will be the loop and on towards Aintree, and is going to pick up another place on the exit of the corner. So I think the conditions just keep changing. On one lap, it is suiting some of the cars with their setup, what they've done to the car in terms of either the wing settings or damper settings or tyres that they've chosen. On other laps, it seems to favour other cars, and the pendulum just keeps swinging one way and the other. The tarmac still looks dry, doesn't it, on the camera, but certainly it is damp out there. So we're nearly at the halfway point of this race. And out front and leading now is James Sweetum, who has picked up the lead of the race in the last few laps and has well and truly pulled away from Matt Bell. So whatever they've done to the setup on James Sweetum's cars, it's in the sweet spot, isn't it? Matt Bell down into second, Jerome de Sadlier third, Chris Short, Dean Warren and Jason Rishover complete the top 6 at the moment. Then it's Mark Goodman from Elliot Goodman with the car of Mike Chen going well, and wrapping up the top 6, or at least last time through as he came over the start-finish line, was Anthony Ayres at the wheel of the number 58 car, but I suspect that has changed by the time they head back over the start-finish line this next time through. Now this is going to be the fight for 4th and 5th position. So Dean Warrener is coming under pressure from the car of Mark Richards. Now Mark Richards, bearing in mind, was in 7th place, wasn't he, last time he came over the start-finish line, when he was already up into 6th, and now potentially about to carve his way through into 5th position, and I don't think there's a great deal that Dean Warrener could do about it. No, not a huge amount of defence put up there. So another place gained by the charging Mark Richards, black car with a silver stripe down the side of it, and Dean Warren is about to get picked off also by the next of the cars, which is Elliot Goodman, who fairly effortlessly gets himself onto the coattails of the number 19 car and is going to draw himself alongside, has the inside line as they head up towards Abbey, and goes through. Again, not a great deal of defence put up for Dean Warrener. He's going as quickly as he can with the equipment he's got in the conditions that we're currently having. But it keeps changing, not just lap after lap after lap, but potentially corner after corner here at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit. So through the left-hander at the loop, down the Wellington straight. Now there goes Jerome de Sadlier. Here comes the car of Chris Short that's there in 4th position, and this is Mark Richards in 5th place. Now the gap, Chris Short was 4th, Mark Richards was 7th at the beginning of the lap, and there was the best part of over 10 seconds between the pair of them. That has come down substantively over the course of the last lap that they are just about to complete here on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. The SR1 Cup at the moment, just looking through, it looks as though it is going to be in the SR1 Cup. I'm having to look a long, long way down through the order to find out who's leading the SR1 Cup. And it's saying Nick Zapolsky is the leader who is in the top 15. Running wide there, that was Rod Goodman, ran a little bit wide and he's going to lose out, unfortunately. That was coming out of Luffield. So dusty tyres as he heads around through Copse Corner, not a lot that he could do. The man who is really on the move at the moment is number 52, Mark Richards. Here's our race leader, working his way past the traffic with, at the moment, James Sweetnam potentially on for a victory in round 9 of the Radical Challenge Championship for 2021. Started 7th on the grid, did James Sweetnam. And as I say, he's a driver who we haven't seen huge amounts of so far this season. His best result, as I mentioned earlier on, was 6th place when he finished in 6th place in the middle of the 2 races at Snetterton. That is his only top 6 finish so far this year, but he certainly looks on course for the moment with a 9.5 second lead to be heading towards the top step of the podium for the first time in the 2021 season. In what have been very changeable conditions, but he is the man who has mastered them absolutely. Up towards Brooklands he goes, and you can see the relative gap between himself and Matt Bell, who was only just appearing in the background of the shot there. So out of the ever-sweeping right-hander at Luffield, onto the gas again, flick the car up through the gears and accelerate the way over the start-finish line. Most of the cars running in the Supersport class, which caters for the Radical SR3, capable of, what, the best part of 150 miles an hour nearly, 225 brake horsepower from these very, very powerful cars with enormously efficient aerodynamics as well. So particularly through this part of the circuit, as you flick the car through Maggotts and Beckett's, the car will really be loading up, and you'll certainly feel that. There's Paul Atherton at the wheel of the blue and orange car. Nice to see Paul back in the championship. He is circulating amongst the Radical SR1 Cup competitors. He's, what, I think 6th in that class, potentially, in his class at the moment, but running down in 30th position for what was a very full grid. 36 cars in total we have seen. And certainly for the SR1 Cup, good opportunity here for drivers to close the gap on the champion, Will Hunt, because we saw him tangled up in the early stages of the race and he did not complete the lap. So Will Hunt has gone missing out there on circuit. We know of the whereabouts of Chris Preen with his damaged car and what happened to him on the formation lap, bringing the car into the pit lane, and such was the extent of the damage. He has also not reappeared. So this is our Radical SR1 Cup leader here, Nick Zapolsky, former Ginetta racer, but he's not got much of a gap, has he, between himself and the car that sits not that far behind him. So Zapolsky needs to keep pressing on here if he wants to hang on to the lead of the class, because right behind him is the white and Dayglow green car. That will be James Lay, so that is for the lead of the Radical SR1 Cup, just coming up towards what is Stowe Corner now. Zapolsky looking in the mirrors, weaving round to try and break the toe on James Lay, who is just confident enough at the moment to sit right behind the race leading car in the SR1 Cup and see whether an opportunity presents itself to take up the lead of the class. He'll also be conscious that they've got some of the quicker cars in the Radical Challenge Championship about to try and work their way past them. So out of Club Corner onto the Hamilton Straight they thread their way. This is what, lap number 7 that they're on at the moment. You still see the slight moisture on the camera there, so certainly still tricky conditions out there. Mike Chen coming under attack from Anthony Ayres. Now that's going to be for the final place inside the top 10 actually. Mike Chen in 10th position. So a driver who commentates a lot on the Red Bull television channel and is really starting to come under pressure from Anthony Ayres, who almost got the run in there coming out of Aintree. The pair of them should be appearing into view almost side by side down the Wellington Straight, I would have thought. Yeah, here they go. Ayres has the inside line, Anthony Ayres, for the left-hander at Brooklands, so should be able to take the place away. And indeed, yeah, goes through, takes the position away. Anthony Ayres moves up into what should be now the top 10, but Mike Chen is not giving that up easily, is he? And we've had a change for the lead of the SR1 Cup. By the look of things, James Lay now has gone through. The number 26 car of Nick Zapolsky down to 2nd in the Radical SR1 Cup at this stage with 4 minutes of the race remaining. Now 4 minutes is going to equate to, depending on where the race leader was coming over the start-finish line, that being James Sweetnam, it's only going to equate to the lap he's on and probably one more thereafter. Now that Anthony Ayres has grabbed himself a position in the top 10, can he pull away from Mike Chen? Well, for the moment, Mike Chen is sitting firmly in his slipstream and looking to try and stick with him. Then we've got the leading cars, SR1 Cup, just behind this pair here. Out of Chapel Curve goes Mike Chen, but already no, the daylight's starting to open up, isn't it? Anthony Ayres in the red number 58 car, slowly just starting to build a bit more daylight between himself and the car behind. Here come the leaders of the SR1 Cup. The number 39 car leading, which is James Lay. Now for James, he would very much like to claim the win. That would make it 3 on the bounce if he could, because he won the last 2 races at Snetterton. Of course, remember, he's second in the championship standings as well, and is only, 17 points adrift of Will Hunt, his main championship rival. And remember, Will is out of the race, so good opportunity here for James Lay to take up, potentially, the championship lead. So 3 minutes of the race remaining. Up towards us comes John McLeod, running absolutely side by side with Elliot Goodman. McLeod has the inside line, should go through at Brooklands. Indeed he does. So that is 4 positions, 4th and 5th place. Elliot Goodman now losing out to John McLeod, so John McLeod will pick up 4th position this time through. Elliot Goodman down into 5th place. And as they head over the start-finish line, there are now less than 2.5 minutes of the race remaining. Now, these 2 cars in 4th and 5th place are about 10 seconds behind the 3rd place car, which is Mark Richards, who last time through set the fastest lap of the race, by the way. 2 minutes 4.497 for Mark Richards in 3rd position. And that's worth looking at, because Mark Richards in 3rd place set the fastest lap of the race and was 4 seconds quicker than Matt Bell in 2nd place. And Matt Bell is only 3 seconds up the road. So the gap between 2nd and 3rd closed by nearly 4 seconds on that lap. So we could have a change potentially for 2nd and 3rd position. We'll have to see as to how close the number 52 car of Mark Richards is. Black car with a silver stripe down the side, to Matt Bell's car, which is black but has yellow headlamps to it, because that gap is diminishing. So it closed by 4 seconds on that last lap, 4.5 seconds, and it's now down to just 3.5 seconds. So squabbles still continuing amongst the SR1 Cup competitors. Sliding wide there is Ben Stone as he looks to try and hang on to the position at the wheel of the grey car. He is going to be watching his mirrors there to make sure that he doesn't allow Andy Lowe to go through in the number 22 car that sits directly behind him. In fact, Andy Lowe's ahead of him, actually, is he? Yeah, it's Andy Lowe that's ahead of him. Ben Stone is now coming under pressure from Darren De Leon, who's looking to try and squeeze his way up the inside, the young teenager if he can. Or is he 16, 17 years of age? Through he goes. Darryl De Leon, and the Anglo-Filipino takes the place away. Now there's our race leader. That should be on to the final lap of the race now for our race leader, James Sweetnam. Now, what's going on for 2nd and 3rd place? Matt Bell is about, 10 or 15 seconds behind. No, Mark Richards has taken 2nd place on that lap. I did say that the gap was closing between the pair of them, so Mark Richards now up into 2nd place. Didn't see it, but it did always look as though the charge that Mark Richards was putting in would see him through and ahead of Matt Bell. But for our race leader, this is going to be a first win this season, and I think the first win ever in the Radical Challenge Championship for James Sweetnam, still carving his way through and past some of the traffic. There is the number 52 car of Mark Richards, and there is, the car that was in 2nd place, Matt Bell, who has now been caught and passed by the 52 car. So a stunning charge from Mark Richards that will also net him the fastest lap of the race as well, and that comes with, I think, an extra championship point. Yes, it does, in the Radical Challenge Championship. So that extra championship point for the fastest lap is at the moment going the way of the number 52 car in what are, I think, now ever improving conditions here at Silverstone, in a race that really did throw, well, not everything at it for the drivers, but just made it very, very difficult in the early stages. I wouldn't say treacherous, I would just say greasy and unpredictable, I think, is probably the way that I would word it, because some drivers clearly got a setup, having gambled and spoken to the team and looked to the skies, gambled on a setup that could have worked and didn't, and others looked at the same skies and gambled on the setup and it has worked. And certainly for Mark Richards, he is one of those. For Matt Bell, the championship leader, it's another podium for him, for Matt Bell. He'll be pleased with that. That means that he keeps up this string of having finished on the podium in every race, bar one so far this year. But for our race leader, James Sweetnam, he's about to turn his way out of Luffield for the final time and work his way out of the corner up towards Woodcote, where the checkered flag will await. And it looks as though for round 9 of the 2021 Radical Challenge Championship, it is going to be a first win this season for James Sweetnam comes through to claim the win. Second place should be, heading over the start-finish line, the number 52 car in the hands of Mark Richards. He will work his way up towards the checkered flag any second now. He will appear in view. Yep, so through comes Mark Richards, the number 52 car, to finish in second position, and it's another black car, but the one with the yellow headlamps, that finishes in third place, which is going to be Matt Bell. A spin on the final lap there, just managing to recover. That's Stephen Lake, by the look of things, who had a bit of a moment on the final lap, but will get the car fired back into life and continue. Fourth will go the way of John McLeod. Fifth, Elliot Goodman, we just saw flick his way over the start-finish line. And Jerome de Sadlier, remember, who qualified on pole position for this race, is going to complete the top six by the look of things. Not the best of races for Jerome de Sadlier, who was looking to try and close the gap on his main championship rival, Matt Bell, in that race. But for that man there, perfect win for James Sweetenham. Had to work his way through some traffic and would ultimately move up from 7th position to claim the win. But he will be hugely delighted with the way that things panned out in what were, say, tricky conditions to start with. Some light mist and rain. There's number 26, Nick Sapolsky, who is going to come through and I think finish second in the SR1 Cup in the end. It should be the White and Dayglow car that takes the SR1 Cup. Here it comes now over the start-finish line. Yeah, so that's James Lay then confirmed as the winner of the SR1 Cup element of the race for round 7 of their championship, joined on the grid this weekend as they work with the Radical Challenge Championship. But he will be pleased with that, James Lay. Finishing second in the Radical SR1 Cup will be the number 26 car of Nick Sapolsky, and third in the SR1 Cup, I think, was Andy Lowe, who worked his way from, what would it be, something like the 6th row of the grid, 7th row of the grid in the SR1 Cup. So he did a really good job indeed of working his way through the order. Still the last few squabbles still about to come over the start-finish line. Alex Spooner under attack from Mark Williams, who I think is going to go through, is he? They're mixed amongst some of the SR3s as well at this stage, but it does look as though, yeah, in the squabble between Alex Spooner and Mark Williams, it's the lighter blue and darker blue car of Mark Williams that comes through to finish. I think that'll be something like 24th position it would be for him. So our race leader, James Sweetenham, making his way in towards the pit lane. He is the winner of round 9 of the 2021 Radical Challenge Championship. Say his best previous result was when he finished in 6th position. But that is his first podium of the 2021 season. Congratulations to him, and congratulations, we ought to say also, to James Lay, who now makes it, 3 wins out of the last 3 races in the Radical SR1 Cup Championship, round 7 for their championship in 2021. More racing to come up from the Radical Challenge Championship over the course of this weekend. We'll see a further sprint race later on this afternoon. We have our pit stop race to look forward to as well tomorrow. But for the confirmation of the results then, the win goes the way of James Sweetenham. Second position go the way of Mark Richards. There we go. Third place was Matt Bell, and fourth place was John McLeod. Elliot Goodman was there in 5th place, with Jerome de Sadlier in 6th, and Chris Short was in 7th place. 8th place in the end went the way of Stephen Lake, who worked his way up from 18th on the grid, so a good haul of championship points for him. Dean Warriner was 9th, and completing the top 10 was Anthony Ayres. So outside of the top 10, we can see that the winner of the Radical SR1 Cup element of the race finished in 12th position, and that was James Lay from Nick Sapolsky, and third in the SR1 Cup was Andy Lowe, another driver that worked his way well and truly up through the order. So that gives you the results for the combined Radical Challenge Championship race and Radical SR1 Cup here at Silverstone, rounds 9 and 7 of their respective championship, and they'll both be together on the grid later on this afternoon for their second of the sprint races. So from all of us here at Silverstone, join us for that later on today. Until then, it's goodbye.